Hello, story lovers! Tonight, we're diving into a tale of passion, secrets, and choices that could change everything. Hearts will be broken, love will be tested, and every twist will leave you on the edge of your seat. Comment below where you're watching from. And if this story moves you, hit like, subscribe, share it with someone who loves a powerful love story, and tap the bell so you never miss the next thrilling chapter. Ready? Let's begin. The marble floor of the Grand Plaza Hotel gleamed like ice under Emma Bennett's worn sneakers. She shifted the weight of 3 massive bouquets in her arms, white roses and orchids that cost more than her monthly rent. The revolving doors spun with elegantly dressed guests, and her reflection in the polished glass looked small and out of place. 2 years delivering flowers to high society events, and she still felt like an intruder. Wedding delivery for the Imperial Ballroom, she told the front desk clerk. He barely glanced up, waving her toward the elevators. Emma's heart pounded as she rode to the 3rd floor. The corridor stretched before her, lined with gold-framed mirrors that multiplied her nervous face into infinity. Music and laughter spilled from behind massive double doors at the end of the hall. The doors stood slightly ajar. Emma pushed through with her shoulder, careful not to damage the delicate petals. The moment she entered, cold dread washed over her. This was wrong. The ballroom glittered with hundreds of guests in designer gowns and tailored suits. Crystal chandeliers scattered rainbow light across champagne glasses. A string quartet played near a towering wedding cake. And at the altar stood a man who made Emma's breath catch. Daniel Stone. Even someone like her knew that name. The billionaire entrepreneur, the tech genius, the man whose face graced magazine covers. His charcoal gray tuxedo fit perfectly. His dark hair gleamed under the lights. His strong jaw was tense as the ceremony proceeded. Then his eyes met hers across the crowded room. Time fractured. For 3 heartbeats, the world narrowed to just the 2 of them. Emma saw something flicker across his face, something raw and desperate. Not anger at her intrusion. Not confusion. Something deeper, recognition, longing, as if he had been waiting his entire life for someone to walk through those doors. "Excuse me, what are you doing here?" A tall woman in a silver gown marched toward Emma, perfectly manicured hand pointing like a weapon. "This is a private ceremony. Security." Emma stumbled backward, nearly dropping the bouquets. "I'm so sorry. I'm just delivering flowers. I must have the wrong ballroom." Before security could reach her, an elderly woman stood up from the front row. She moved with surprising speed, her pearl necklace gleaming as she approached. Her wrinkled hand reached out, trembling, to touch Emma's face. "Dear God," the woman whispered. "You have her eyes. You have Elizabeth's eyes." Emma froze. The floor tilted beneath her feet. "My mother's name was Elizabeth. Elizabeth Bennett." The ballroom erupted in whispers. Daniel took a step forward from the altar. His bride, a striking woman in white silk, grabbed his arm, but his attention remained fixed on Emma. "Elizabeth Bennett worked for our family 28 years ago," the elderly woman said, tears streaming down her powdered cheeks. "She was my son Thomas's great love," her voice cracked, "and you must be her daughter." Emma's mother had died 5 years ago, taking most of her secrets to the grave. Emma knew her mother had once worked in the city as a nurse, but Elizabeth had always refused to talk about that time. She had raised Emma alone in their small apartment, working multiple jobs, always looking over her shoulder as if afraid someone might find them. "My mother never mentioned your family," Emma said quietly, aware that hundreds of wealthy strangers were staring at her. "We live very simply. We weren't connected to people like you." The elderly woman's face crumbled. "That's because my husband drove her away. Philip Stone threatened to take you from your mother if she didn't leave and never contact our family again. He used his wealth and power to terrify a young woman who had done nothing wrong except fall in love with our son." "This is completely inappropriate," the bride hissed from the altar. "Father Martinez, please continue the ceremony. This girl obviously wandered in by mistake." But Daniel pulled his arm free. He walked down the aisle, his expensive shoes clicking against the polished floor, until he stood directly in front of Emma. Up close, she could see the conflict in his eyes. the way his hands clenched and unclenched at his sides. "What's your name?" His voice was low, intense. "Emma. Emma Bennett. Emma." He repeated it like a prayer. "My Uncle Thomas used to keep a photograph in his wallet. A picture of a woman holding a baby girl. He looked at it every day until he died 3 years ago. He never married, never moved on. He said he'd lost the only woman he could ever love." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "My mother kept a photograph too. A man with kind eyes, holding her hand in a garden. She would look at it late at night, when she thought I was asleep. She would cry and whisper his name. Thomas." She said it like a prayer. The silence in the ballroom was deafening. Daniel reached out slowly, as if afraid Emma might vanish. He gently took the bouquets from her arms and handed them to a stunned waiter. Then he took Emma's hands in his. "I'm so sorry," Daniel said, and the rawness in his voice made Emma's heart ache. "I'm sorry for what my family did to your mother. I'm sorry you grew up without knowing your father's family. I'm sorry that my grandfather's cruelty separated to people who loved each other. Daniel Stone, what are you doing?" The bride's voice was shrill now. "Get back here this instant."
Oh.
But Daniel didn't move. He kept holding Emma's hands, kept looking into her eyes as if he were seeing something he'd been searching for his entire life. "I don't know you," he said to Emma. "I have no right to feel what I'm feeling right now. But the moment you walked through those doors, everything changed. It was like waking up from a long sleep and finally seeing colors for the first time." Emma should have pulled away. She should have apologized and left this beautiful, complicated world that wasn't hers. But she couldn't move. She couldn't break the connection that hummed between them like electricity. "I should go," she whispered. "This is your wedding day. I've ruined everything." "You haven't ruined anything," Daniel said firmly. "You've shown me the truth. I've been standing at that altar for the past 30 minutes, saying words I don't mean, making promises I can't keep. Marrying Veronica was supposed to be good for business, good for our family's alliance, good for everything except my heart. This is insane." Veronica shrieked, finally running down the aisle. "Daniel, we have 200 guests here. We have signed contracts. Our families have invested millions in merging our companies." Daniel finally released Emma's hands and turned to face Veronica. "I'm sorry, Veronica. I truly am. You deserve someone who loves you the way my uncle loved Elizabeth. But that person isn't me. I can't marry you." The ballroom exploded. Guests jumped to their feet, voices rising in shock and confusion. Veronica slapped Daniel across the face, her engagement ring leaving a red mark on his cheek. The elderly woman collapsed into a chair, overcome with emotion, and Emma stood at the center of it all. A simple flower delivery girl who had accidentally walked into the wrong wedding and somehow changed everything. "Please leave," Veronica said coldly to Emma. "You've done enough damage for one day." Emma nodded, her vision blurred with tears. She turned toward the door, desperate to escape this nightmare. But before she could take 3 steps, Daniel called out to her. "Emma, wait." She stopped, but didn't turn around. "Can I see you again?" Daniel asked. "After all this settles, after I fix this mess I've created, can I find you?" Emma looked back over her shoulder. Daniel stood alone now, his canceled wedding in chaos around him, his face marked where his almost wife had struck him. But his eyes held hope. "Bennett Flowers on Maple Street," Emma said softly. "Open Tuesday through Saturday." Then she walked out of the Grand Plaza Hotel, leaving behind the most surreal hour of her life. As the elevator descended, Emma caught her reflection in the mirrored walls. Her simple cotton dress and messy ponytail looked absurd compared to the glamour she'd just witnessed. She was from a different world than Daniel Stone. Their paths should never have crossed. But as Emma stepped out into the afternoon sunlight, she could still feel the warmth of Daniel's hands holding hers. She could still see the way he'd looked at her, as if she were the answer to a question he'd been asking his entire life. And deep in her heart, Emma knew this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. 3 days passed like a fever dream. 3 restless nights where Emma replayed every moment of that catastrophic wedding. 3 days of her younger brother Lucas, asking endless questions about the mysterious billionaire who had stopped his own ceremony. 3 days of checking the shop door every time the bell chimed, hoping and fearing it might be him. When Daniel finally walked into Bennett Flowers on Thursday afternoon, Emma was arranging sunflowers in the back room. She heard the door chime and called out, "I'll be right there." But when she emerged, wiping her hands on her apron, she found Daniel Stone standing awkwardly among the buckets of roses and daisies, looking completely out of place in his expensive suit. "Hello, Emma," he said softly. "Hello, Daniel." Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. "I didn't think you would actually come. I've thought about nothing else since Saturday." Daniel ran his hand through his hair, a gesture that made him seem less like a powerful billionaire and more like a nervous man. "The wedding made every newspaper in the city. My phone hasn't stopped ringing. My business partners are furious. Veronica's family is threatening to sue. I'm so sorry. Don't be." Daniel stepped closer, his cologne mixing with the scent of flowers. "For the first time in years, I feel like I'm finally awake. Like I've been sleepwalking through my own life." Emma's hands trembled as she set down her pruning shears. "Daniel, we don't know each other." "What happened at the wedding? That was just emotion and shock and family history. It wasn't real, wasn't it?" Daniel's dark eyes held hers. "Then why haven't I been able to stop thinking about you? Why does it feel like I've been waiting my entire life to meet you?" Before Emma could answer, the shop bell chimed again. A tall man in a dark suit entered, his presence immediately filling the small space with tension. "Mr. Stone," the man said coldly, "your grandmother has been trying to reach you." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Richard, I didn't realize Catherine sent her lawyer to track me down." "This isn't about tracking you down." Richard's gaze shifted to Emma, his expression unreadable. "It's about protecting you, and protecting the family legacy." Emma felt a chill run down her spine. "What's that supposed to mean?" Daniel asked. Richard pulled an envelope from his jacket and placed it on the counter between them. "Inside are the results of a private investigation conducted by your grandfather Philip before he died. He never shared these findings with the family. I discovered them in his personal safe last week." Emma's hands went cold. Daniel reached for the envelope, but Richard placed his hand over it. "Before you open that," Richard said carefully, "you should know that some truths change everything. Some secrets are kept for a reason." "Open it," Emma heard herself say. Her voice sounded far away. "Whatever it is, we deserve to know." Daniel opened the envelope and pulled out several documents. As he read, the color drained from his face. His hands began to shake. "No," he whispered. "This can't be right." "What is it?" Emma asked, fear gripping her chest. Daniel looked up at her, and the pain in his eyes made her want to run. "According to these DNA tests," he said slowly, "my Uncle Thomas wasn't just in love with your mother. He was your father. You're not just connected to my family, Emma. You are family." The shop spun. Emma gripped the counter to keep from falling. "That's impossible. My mother would have told me." "Would she?" Richard's voice was gentle but firm. "Your mother was threatened by one of the most powerful men in the city. She was told she'd lose her child if she ever revealed the truth. Maybe she thought silence was the only way to keep you safe." Emma's mind raced back through her childhood. Her mother's haunted eyes, the way she'd jumped at unexpected knocks on the door, the photograph she'd kept hidden, the name she'd whispered in the dark. "Thomas," Emma breathed. "He wasn't just her love. He was my father." Daniel set the papers down carefully as if they might explode. "My uncle died believing he'd lost both of you. He left everything to Catherine in his will, but these documents suggest he wanted to find you. He hired investigators. He never stopped searching." "Which brings us to the complicated part," Richard said. "According to Thomas's will, if a biological child was ever confirmed, half of his estate would transfer to them automatically. We're talking about approximately $300 million, Emma. You're an heiress." The word hung in the air like smoke. "I don't want money," Emma said, her voice breaking. "I wanted a father. I wanted to know why my mother cried herself to sleep. I wanted to understand why we lived like we were hiding." Daniel moved toward her, but Richard stepped between them. "Mr. Stone, we need to discuss this privately. There are legal implications. Family complications." The media will have a field day. I don't care about the media, Daniel said fiercely. You should. Richard's tone hardened. Because Veronica Parker's family isn't taking the canceled wedding well. They've already leaked stories to the press suggesting Miss Bennett is a con artist who crashed your wedding to extort money from your family. They're painting her as a gold digger who seduced you with lies about her mother. Emma felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. That's not true. I didn't know anything about any of this. I know that, Daniel said. And we'll prove it, will we? Richard pulled out his phone and showed them a news article. The headline read, Billionaire's Wedding Scandal. Mystery Woman Claims Family Connection. Walks Away with Fortune. Emma's photo, captured by a guest at the wedding, was plastered across the screen. The article painted her as a calculating opportunist who had researched the Stone family and planned the perfect moment to crash the wedding. They're destroying me, Emma whispered. They're protecting their interests, Richard corrected. The Parker family had significant investments tied to the merger between Stone Technologies and Parker Industries. Your appearance cost them millions. Daniel's hands clenched into fists. So they're lying about her. They're assassinating her character. They're fighting back the only way they know how. Richard pocketed his phone. Which is why I'm here to offer Miss Bennett a solution. What kind of solution? Emma asked, though dread already pooled in her stomach. Richard pulled out another document. Sign this. It's a legal agreement stating you'll accept a one-time settlement of $5 million and relinquish all claims to the Stone family estate. In exchange, we'll issue a statement clearing your name and ensuring the media backs off. Absolutely not, Daniel said immediately. But Richard wasn't finished. If you don't sign, Miss Bennett, this gets ugly. The Parker family has unlimited resources and a vendetta. They'll drag you through every court, every tabloid, every social media platform until your life is unrecognizable. Your flower shop will be vandalized. Your brother will be harassed. Your mother's memory will be tarnished. Is that really what you want? Emma looked at Daniel. She saw the fury in his eyes, the desperate desire to protect her. But she also saw something else. The weight of his world. The complications of his life. The impossible distance between a billionaire and a flower shop girl. How long do I have to decide? Emma asked quietly. 24 hours, Richard said. After that, the offer expires and the gloves come off. After Richard left, the silence in the shop was suffocating. Daniel moved to Emma, taking her hands the way he had at the wedding. Don't let them bully you. We'll fight this together, Daniel. Look at us. Emma's voice cracked. You're standing in my tiny flower shop that barely pays the rent. Your lawyer just told me I'm about to inherit $300 million and that powerful people want to destroy me. This isn't a fairy tale. This is a nightmare. Then we'll face the nightmare together. Emma pulled her hands free. Because you felt something when I walked into your wedding? Because we have some kind of cosmic connection. That's not enough. That's not real. It's real to me. Daniel's voice was raw. From the moment I saw you, something inside me recognized you. Like I'd been incomplete my whole life and suddenly all the pieces fell into place. Emma felt tears streaming down her face. My mother spent 28 years running from your family. She died never telling me the truth. Maybe she was trying to protect me from exactly this. Maybe I should take the money and walk away. Is that what you want? Emma looked into Daniel's eyes and saw everything she'd ever dreamed of. Safety, understanding, a love that felt written in the stars. But she also saw the trap, the gilded cage, the life that would swallow her whole. I don't know what I want anymore, she whispered. Daniel pulled her close, and Emma let herself collapse against his chest. She could hear his heart beating, fast and desperate. His arms wrapped around her like a shield against the world. 24 hours, he murmured into her hair. Whatever you decide, I'll stand by you. But Emma, please don't let them scare you away. Not when we just found each other. The shop bell chimed. Emma pulled back to see Lucas, her younger brother, standing in the doorway. His eyes were red, his hands shaking. Emma, he said, his voice breaking. There are reporters outside our apartment. They're everywhere. They're saying terrible things about Mom, about you. What's happening? Emma's heart shattered. She looked at Daniel, then at her brother. then at the simple flower shop that had been her sanctuary, in 24 hours. She would have to make a choice. But as she held Lucas while he cried, Emma realized the choice might already be made. Some loves weren't meant to survive in the real world. Emma didn't sleep that night. She sat at her mother's old desk, surrounded by the few belongings Elizabeth Bennett had left behind. A jewelry box with a broken clasp. A leather journal with half the pages torn out. And the photograph. Emma held it up to the lamplight. Her mother, young and radiant, stood in a garden with a man who had her eyes. Thomas Stone. Her father. A man she'd never known, but who had apparently never stopped loving her mother. Lucas knocked softly on her bedroom door. "Can I come in?" Emma nodded, and her brother sat beside her. At 19, Lucas was working 2 jobs to help pay for community college. Their mother's medical bills had drained everything. They'd been scraping by for 5 years, held together by hope and stubbornness. "Are you going to take the money?" Lucas asked quietly. "I don't know. That's a lie." Lucas met her eyes. "You're going to turn it down. You're going to walk away from $300 million because you think that's what Mom would want." Emma's throat tightened. She spent her whole life running from that family. "No," Lucas shook his head. "She spent her whole life protecting you from them. But Emma, she's gone. And you're here. And you have a chance at something she never got." "What's that?" "A choice." Lucas picked up the photograph. "Mom didn't get to choose. She was threatened and scared and alone, but you can choose. You can take what's rightfully yours and build something good with it. Or you can let the people who destroyed her win again." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "What about Daniel?" Lucas smiled sadly. "What about him? He walked away from his own wedding for you. He's been calling every hour to check on you. He got his lawyers to remove the reporters from our building. Emma, I've never seen anyone look at you the way he looks at you. That's exactly why I'm scared." Emma's voice cracked. "What if this feeling between us is just trauma and intensity and forbidden attraction? What if in 6 months he realizes I don't fit in his world and I've given up everything for nothing? And what if it's real?" Lucas challenged. "What if you walk away and spend the rest of your life wondering what could have been?" Before Emma could answer, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Miss Bennett, this is Catherine Stone. Please meet me tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Riverside Caf, on 5th. Come alone. This is important." Emma showed Lucas the message. "Daniel's grandmother. The one who recognized my mother? Are you going?" Emma thought about the elderly woman who had wept openly at the wedding, who had spoken of love destroyed by cruelty, who had lost her son to grief. Emma said, "I'm going." The Riverside Caf was quiet at 7 in the morning. Catherine Stone sat at a corner table, dressed simply in a navy cardigan and pearl earrings. She looked smaller than Emma remembered, more fragile. "Thank you for coming," Catherine said, as Emma sat down. "I wasn't sure you would." "I wasn't sure either." Catherine ordered tea for both of them, and they sat in uncomfortable silence until the server left. "I want to tell you about your father," Catherine finally said. "The real Thomas, not the man the documents describe." Emma's hands wrapped around her teacup. "I'm listening." "Thomas was my youngest son. Gentle, artistic, completely unsuited for the business world. My husband demanded he join. When he met your mother at the hospital where she worked, it was like watching him come alive for the first time." Catherine's eyes grew distant. He would talk about her constantly, her kindness, her strength, the way she saw the world. "He wanted to marry her, but your husband stopped him." "Philip did more than stop him." Catherine's voice hardened. "He investigated Elizabeth, found out she was pregnant, and gave her an ultimatum. Leave the city, never contact Thomas again, and raise the child in peace. Or stay, and he would use every legal weapon at his disposal to prove her an unfit mother and take custody." Ma felt sick. She was a nurse. She was perfectly fit to be a mother. Of course she was. But Philip had judges in his pocket, lawyers on retainer, and no conscience. Elizabeth was terrified. So she ran. And Thomas... Catherine's hands trembled as she set down her teacup. Philip told Thomas that Elizabeth had chosen money over love, that she'd accepted a payout and disappeared. Thomas was devastated. He tried to find her for years, but Philip blocked every attempt. By the time Thomas learned the truth, your mother had built a new life. She'd changed her name slightly, moved constantly, made herself invisible. He knew. Emma's voice rose. My father knew I existed. He found out 3 years before he died. He hired investigators without telling the family. When he finally had proof, he was planning to contact you, to beg your mother's forgiveness, to meet his daughter. Catherine's eyes filled with tears, but he had a heart attack before he could make that call. He died holding your photograph. Emma, the last words he said to me were, "Tell her I never stopped loving them." Emma couldn't breathe. The weight of all those lost years crushed down on her. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to understand what you're walking into. Catherine leaned forward. The money Richard offered you yesterday, that's not compassion. That's fear. The rest of the family is terrified of you. You represent everything they tried to bury. Scandal, shame, Philip's cruelty coming to light. If you accept the settlement and disappear, they can pretend you never existed. And if I don't, then you become part of this family. With all the ugliness that entails, Catherine's gaze was steady. But Emma, that money is yours by right. Thomas wanted you to have it. And more than that, I want you to have it. You're my granddaughter, my son's child. You deserve to know where you come from. Emma's mind spun. What about Daniel? For the first time, Catherine smiled. What about him? He called off his wedding for me. His life is in chaos. How can I make this more complicated? My dear girl, Catherine said gently, Daniel's life has been complicated since the day he was born into this family. But I've never seen him happy until he met you. The way he looks at you, that's how Thomas looked at your mother. That's what I'm afraid of. Emma's voice broke. Look what happened to them. Your husband destroyed their love. He drove my mother into hiding. He kept my father from ever knowing me. What makes you think the family won't do the same thing to us? Catherine reached across the table and took Emma's hands. Her skin was paper-thin, marked with age spots and wrinkles. Because I'm still here. And I will fight for you with every breath I have left. I couldn't save my son's love, but I can honor it by protecting his daughter. Emma wanted to believe her, but trust felt like stepping off a cliff into darkness. Catherine, if I accept the inheritance, if I try to be part of this family, they'll come after me. Richard made that clear. Veronica's family, the business partners, everyone who benefited from that wedding. They'll make my life hell. Us. Catherine agreed. They will. Then how can I drag Daniel into that? How can I let him sacrifice everything for someone he barely knows? You can't. Catherine squeezed Emma's hands. That's not your choice to make. Daniel is a grown man. He's choosing you, Emma. The question is whether you're brave enough to choose him back. Out. Emma pulled her hands away and stood up. Her chair scraped against the floor. I need to think. You have until noon, Catherine said. That's when Richard needs your decision. But Emma, before you go, let me ask you something. When you look at Daniel, what do you feel? Emma closed her eyes. She saw Daniel at the altar, his eyes meeting hers across the ballroom. She felt his hands taking hers, heard the rawness in his voice when he apologized for his family's cruelty. She remembered the way he'd held her in the flower shop, like she was something precious and breakable. I feel like I'm home, Emma whispered. Like I've been lost my whole life and suddenly I know where I belong. Catherine nodded slowly. Then you already know what to do. You're just afraid to do it. Emma left the cafe with her mind in turmoil. She walked through the city streets, past shops opening for the day, past people rushing to work, past the ordinary world that suddenly felt impossibly distant. Her phone buzzed constantly. Daniel calling. Richard calling. Even a number she recognized as a journalist. She ignored them all. At 11:30, Emma found herself standing outside Stone Technologies. The building rose 50 stories into the sky, all glass and steel and modern architecture. Daniel's kingdom. The security guard in the lobby looked up as she entered. I'm here to see Daniel Stone, Emma said. Do you have an appointment? No, but tell him Emma Bennett is here. He'll see me. 5 minutes later, Emma stepped out of the elevator onto the top floor. Daniel's assistant led her down a hallway lined with awards and accolades. Into a corner office with floor-to ceiling windows overlooking the city, Daniel stood by the windows, his back to the door. When he turned and saw her, relief and fear crossed his face in equal measure. "Emma, I've been trying to reach you, I know." Emma stayed by the door. "I needed to think. And have you thought about it?" Emma walked to the windows and looked out at the city. Somewhere down there was her flower shop, her small apartment, the simple life she'd known. "I'm so sorry." "Your grandmother told me about my father," Emma said. "About how much he loved my mother. About how he died before he could find us." "Don't be." Emma turned to face Daniel. "I'm glad I know the truth. Even if it hurts, what are you going to do?" Emma took a deep breath. "I'm going to accept the inheritance. All of it." Daniel's eyes widened. "You are?" "Yes, because it's mine. Because my father wanted me to have it. Because I'm tired of running from who I am." Emma stepped closer. "But Daniel, I need you to understand something. If we do this, if we try to make this work, it's going to be ugly. People will hate me. They'll say I manipulated you. They'll make both our lives miserable. I know."
"And you still want this?"
"You still want me?" Daniel closed the distance between them in 2 strides. He cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing away tears she hadn't realized were falling. "Emma, I've spent my entire life doing what was expected of me. Building the right company, dating the right people, planning the right merger marriage. And I was miserable. Then you walked into that ballroom, and everything changed. Yes, it's going to be hard. Yes, people will judge us. But for the first time in my life, I'm choosing something for myself. I'm choosing you." His words should have filled her with joy. Instead, Emma felt ice creeping through her veins, because standing in the doorway behind Daniel, her face pale with fury, was Veronica Parker. "How touching," Veronica said, her voice dripping with venom. "The gold digger and the fool, declaring their love in his office, while my family's lawyers prepare to destroy you both." Daniel dropped his hands and turned. "Veronica, you need to leave?" "Oh, I'm leaving." Veronica walked into the office, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. "But first, I thought you should know what I just learned. About your precious Emma and her tragic mother." Emma's stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" Veronica pulled out her phone and held up a document. "My investigators are very thorough. They don't just look at DNA reports. They look at everything." She smiled cruelly. "Tell me, Emma, did your mother ever mention why she really left the city 28 years ago?" "You don't know anything about my mother, don't I?" Veronica's eyes glittered. Elizabeth Bennett wasn't just a nurse. She was a nurse with access to prescription medications. And according to hospital records that mysteriously vanished, there was an investigation into missing narcotics right around the time she disappeared. Emma felt the blood drain from her face. "That's a lie, is it?" "Because the timing is awfully convenient. Your mother gets pregnant, gets investigated for theft, and suddenly runs away before charges can be filed. Maybe Philip Stone didn't drive her away with threats. Maybe she was running from her own crimes." "That's enough," Daniel said coldly. But Veronica wasn't finished. "And here's the best part. If Emma's mother was under investigation for criminal activity when she got pregnant, it calls into question whether Thomas Stone would have actually wanted a relationship with her. Maybe Philip was protecting his son from a criminal. Maybe this whole tragic love story is just a con that Elizabeth passed down to her daughter." "Get out," Daniel said, his voice shaking with rage. Veronica ignored him. Her eyes locked on Emma. "So here's my offer, and it's better than Richard's. Walk away right now. Refuse the inheritance. Disappear back to your pathetic flower shop. And I won't release these documents to every media outlet in the country. I won't destroy what's left of your mother's reputation. I won't make sure everyone knows that the great romantic tragedy was really just a drug-addicted nurse running from justice." Emma couldn't breathe. Her mother's face flashed through her mind. The way Elizabeth had been so careful with medication when Emma was sick, the way she'd refused to even take aspirin. The haunted look in her eyes whenever anyone mentioned hospitals. My mother wasn't a drug addict, Emma said, but her voice wavered. Prove it, Veronica challenged. Oh wait, you can't, because all the records are sealed or missing. Convenient, isn't it? Almost like someone with money and power made them disappear to protect the family name. Daniel moved between them. Veronica, this is slander. You have no proof of any of this. I have enough to make people wonder. Enough to plant doubt. Enough to make sure that every time someone looks at Emma, they'll ask themselves if she's really the innocent victim she claims to be. Or if she learned from her mother how to manipulate wealthy men. Emma saw her future crumbling. Even if the accusations were lies, even if her mother had been innocent, the stain would never wash away. Every article would mention it. Every introduction would carry whispers. Every kindness would be questioned. She thought of Lucas, of the reporters already hounding him, of what would happen when these new lies spread. Okay, Emma heard herself say. I'll do it. What? Daniel spun to face her. Emma, no. I'll refuse the inheritance. I'll sign whatever documents Richard wants. I'll make a statement saying I'm not part of the Stone family and I want no connection to them. Emma's voice was hollow. And you'll destroy those documents about my mother. Veronica's smile was triumphant. Smart girl. You have until 6 tonight to sign the papers. If you don't show up, or if you try to back out, I release everything. She walked out, leaving a silence so heavy it felt like drowning. Daniel grabbed Emma's arms. Don't do this. We can fight her. We can prove those accusations are lies. Can we? Emma looked up at him with dead eyes. Because I don't know anymore. My mother kept so many secrets. Maybe there are things I don't know. Things that would hurt both of us if they came out. I don't care, but I do. Emma pulled away from him. Daniel, your grandmother was right about one thing. This family destroys people. Your grandfather destroyed my parents' love. And now Veronica is trying to destroy my mother's memory and any chance we have at happiness. Maybe some things aren't meant to survive, so that's it. Daniel's voice cracked. You're just giving up? Choosing fear over us? Emma felt tears streaming down her face. I'm choosing to protect the people I love. My brother. My mother's memory, you. You're not protecting me. You're breaking my heart. It's better your heart than your entire life. Emma walked to the door, then stopped. For what it's worth, Daniel, these last few days were the most beautiful of my life. I'll never forget the way you looked at me at that wedding, like I was someone worth choosing. You are worth choosing, Daniel said desperately. Emma, please, don't walk away. But Emma was already gone. She made it to the elevator before the sobs overtook her. She rode down 50 floors with tears blurring her vision, walked through the lobby past concerned security guards, and stepped out into the afternoon sun. Her phone buzzed. A text from Richard with an address and a time, 6 p.m., law offices. Bring identification. This is the right choice, Miss Bennett. Emma deleted the message and kept walking. She didn't know where she was going. Away from Daniel, away from the money, away from a future that had glittered like fool's gold before turning to ash in her hands. When she finally stopped, she found herself standing outside her mother's grave. The small headstone read, Elizabeth Bennett, beloved mother, at peace. Emma sank to her knees in the grass. I don't know what to do, Mom, she whispered. I don't know what's true anymore. I don't know if you were running from love or from something darker. I don't know if I'm honoring your memory by walking away or destroying my own life by being afraid. The wind rustled through the trees. Birds sang. The world continued turning, and Emma made her choice at 5:45. Emma sat in the waiting room of Richard's law office, the papers unsigned on her lap. Lucas sat beside her, his jaw set with determination. You don't have to do this, he said for the 10th time. Yes, I do. No, Lucas grabbed her hand. You're doing this because you're scared. Because Veronica planted doubt in your mind about Mom. But Emma, I knew Mom. You knew Mom. She wasn't a criminal. She was the most honest person I've ever met. Then why did she run? Emma's voice cracked. Why did she live like she was hiding from something? Because she was protecting you. From people like Veronica, who twist truth into weapons. The door opened. Richard stood there. his expression neutral. Miss Bennett. Mr. Bennett, please come in. They followed him into a conference room with a massive table. But Emma stopped dead when she saw who else was there. Daniel, Catherine, and an older woman Emma didn't recognize, with gray hair and kind eyes. "What is this?" Emma asked. "This," Catherine said, standing up, "is the truth. Emma, meet Dr. Margaret Chen. She was the head of nursing at City General Hospital 28 years ago." The gray-haired woman smiled gently at Emma. "You look just like your mother?" Elizabeth was one of the finest nurses I ever had the privilege of working with. Emma's legs felt weak. Lucas guided her into a chair. "I don't understand," Emma whispered. Dr. Chen opened a folder. 28 years ago, there was indeed an investigation into missing narcotics at the hospital. Your mother was questioned because she had access to the medication storage. But Elizabeth wasn't the thief. She was the one who reported the theft in the first place. Emma's heart hammered. Then why did Veronica's investigators find records suggesting otherwise? Because Philip Stone paid someone to falsify those records. Catherine's voice was hard. My husband was desperate to drive Elizabeth away. When threats didn't work, he manufactured evidence to blackmail her. He told her that if she didn't leave, he'd make sure she was charged with a crime she didn't commit. She'd go to prison, and Thomas would raise you alone. Emma felt like she'd been struck by lightning. He framed her. Worse than that, Dr. Chen pulled out another document. I kept copies of the original investigation. The real thief was caught 2 months after Elizabeth left. A pharmacy technician with a prescription drug problem. But by then, Elizabeth had disappeared. I tried to find her to tell her she'd been cleared, but she'd changed her name and gone into hiding. Daniel moved to Emma's side, kneeling beside her chair. Your mother was innocent, Emma. She was a victim, and now we can prove it. Emma couldn't process it. 28 years of her mother looking over her shoulder, 28 years of living in fear, all because of a lie. Where's Veronica? Emma asked quietly. Does she know about this? She's about to, Catherine said. Along with everyone else, as if on cue, the door burst open. Veronica stood there, her face flushed with anger. What is this? Some kind of ambush? It's called justice, Catherine said coldly. Dr. Chen has agreed to go public with the truth about Elizabeth Bennett. About how my husband framed an innocent woman? About how you tried to use those same lies to blackmail Emma? Veronica's eyes narrowed. You have no proof I was involved in any blackmail. Actually, we do. Richard pulled out his phone. You made your threats in Daniel's office yesterday. An office that records all conversations for legal protection. We have every word. The color drained from Veronica's face. You were recording? Standard procedure, Richard said mildly. Especially during volatile business situations. Veronica looked around the room like a trapped animal. Fine, you want to expose me? Go ahead. But I'll drag Daniel down with me. I'll tell everyone how he humiliated me at our wedding. How he's been having an affair with the help's daughter. How unstable and impulsive he is. Do it, Daniel said, standing up. I don't care anymore. I'm done living my life according to other people's expectations. I'm done pretending to be someone I'm not. You'll lose everything. Veronica hissed. No. Daniel looked at Emma. I'll lose everything if I let Emma walk away because I'm too afraid to fight for her. Veronica's laugh was bitter. You think this is a fairy tale? You think love conquers all? You're a fool, Daniel. She's not your equal. She'll never fit in your world. And in 6 months, when the novelty wears off, you'll realize you threw away your entire life for a flower shop girl. Before Daniel could respond, Emma stood up. Hey, you're right, Emma said quietly. I'm not his equal. I don't have his money, or his education, or his social status. I grew up in a tiny apartment with a mother who worked 3 jobs. I've never been to a gala or a charity auction. I don't know which fork to use at fancy dinners. Veronica's smile was triumphant. Finally, some sense. But Emma continued, her voice growing stronger. I know what it means to love someone. I watched my mother sacrifice everything for me. I watched her carry the weight of lies and fear because she thought it would keep me safe. And I'm not going to let her sacrifice be for nothing by running away from the truth. Emma turned to Richard. I'm not signing those papers. I'm accepting my inheritance. All of it. Because it's mine by right and because my father wanted me to have it. Then she turned to Daniel. And I'm choosing you. Not because you're rich or powerful or because you can protect me from people like Veronica, but because when I'm with you, I feel like the person I was always meant to be. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. He crossed the room and pulled Emma into his arms, holding her like she was the most precious thing in the world. I love you, he whispered into her hair. I know it's too soon. I know it's crazy, but I love you. I love you too, Emma said, and the truth of it rang through her entire body. Veronica made a sound of disgust. This is pathetic. You're both pathetic. And when this all falls apart, don't come crying to me. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Catherine wiped tears from her eyes. Thomas would be so proud of you, Emma. So proud of both of you. Dr. Chen stood up. I should go. But Emma, if you ever want to talk about your mother, I have stories. Good memories. She was an extraordinary woman. I'd like that, Emma said softly. After Dr. Chen left, Richard cleared his throat. We should discuss the legal specifics of the inheritance. There are tax implications, trust structures, investment portfolios, later Catherine said firmly. Right now, these two need a moment. She ushered Richard out, leaving Emma and Daniel alone in the conference room. For a long moment, they just looked at each other. I'm terrified, Emma admitted. Everything is happening so fast. A week ago, I was just a flower delivery girl. Now I'm an heiress in love with a billionaire. It feels like a dream I'm going to wake up from. Then we'll figure it out together, Daniel said. One day at a time. One moment at a time. Emma's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You may have won this round, but I'm not finished. You're going to regret humiliating me. Both of you, Don showed Daniel the message. Veronica, she's just angry. She'll move on. But something cold slithered down Emma's spine. She thought of Veronica's face, twisted with hatred. She thought of the lengths the woman had already gone to destroy her. Daniel, what if she doesn't move on? What if she comes after us? Daniel pulled Emma close. Then we'll face it together. I'm not afraid of her. But Emma was afraid, because she knew that sometimes love wasn't enough to protect you from people who wanted revenge, and Veronica Parker had nothing left to lose. The next morning, Emma woke up to her phone exploding with notifications. Hundreds of messages. Dozens of missed calls. Social media mentions flooding in faster than she could track. With trembling hands, she opened the news app. The headline made her blood run cold. Stone Air Scandal. Emma Bennett's secret past exposed. Childhood arrests. Juvenile delinquency. And a history of manipulation. Below the headline were photographs. Emma, as a teenager, being let out of a store in handcuffs. Emma's juvenile record, sealed documents that should have been protected by law. Statements from people Emma barely remembered, claiming she'd been a troubled youth. A liar, a thief. Every word was carefully crafted to destroy her. Some were lies. Some were twisted versions of truth. When Emma was 14, she'd been caught shoplifting food because she and her mother were going hungry. The charges had been dropped when a social worker explained their situation. But the article made it sound like she'd been a career criminal. Emma's hands shook. So violently she dropped her phone. Lucas burst into her room. Emma, have you seen it? How? Emma whispered. Those records were sealed. No one should have had access. Veronica has connections, Lucas said grimly. She must have paid someone. Judges, court clerks, someone who could unseal juvenile records.
Ow.
Emma felt her world collapsing. Daniel? I have to call Daniel. But when she tried his number, it went straight to voicemail. She tried again and again. Finally, a text came through. I'm in an emergency board meeting. Shareholders are calling for my resignation. They're saying I'm compromised, that my judgment is clouded by my relationship with you. I'll call you as soon as I can. I love you. Emma read the message 3 times, trying to find comfort in those last 3 words. But all she could think was that Veronica was winning. The doorbell rang. Emma's heart leaped. Maybe it was Daniel coming to tell her everything would be okay. But when Lucas answered the door, it was Catherine. The elderly woman looked exhausted, her face pale and drawn. She walked into the apartment slowly, as if every step required enormous effort. "Emma," Catherine said softly, "we need to talk." Emma's stomach dropped. "What is it?" Catherine sat down heavily. "The board is threatening to remove Daniel as CEO. They're claiming he's mentally unstable, that his decision-making is compromised. They're using his canceled wedding, his relationship with you, and now these articles as evidence." "They can't do that," Emma said desperately. "Yes, they can. And they will, unless Daniel distances himself from you publicly. They want him to release a statement saying, 'Your relationship was a mistake driven by emotion.' That he's ending things and refocusing on the company." Emma felt like she'd been stabbed. "And if he refuses, then he loses everything. The company his uncle helped him build. The technology that could change millions of lives. Everything he's worked for since he was 20 years old." Emma looked at Lucas, then at Catherine. She saw the truth in their eyes. This was the sacrifice. This was the moment where she had to choose between her own happiness and the man she loved. "Does Daniel know you're here?" Emma asked quietly. Catherine shook her head. "He would never ask this of you. He'd burn his whole empire down before he'd let you go. But Emma, I'm asking, for Daniel's sake, for the sake of everything Thomas and I built, please, walk away. Let him save what he can." Emma closed her eyes. She saw Daniel at the altar, his eyes meeting hers. She felt his hands holding hers. Heard him say he was choosing her for the first time in his life, and she knew what she had to do. "Tell Daniel," Emma said, her voice breaking, "that I got scared. That everything happened too fast. That I realized I didn't belong in his world, and I needed to go back to my own life." "Emma, no." Lucas grabbed her arm. But Emma pulled free. "Tell him I'm sorry. Tell him he was right to marry Veronica in the first place. Tell him whatever you need to tell him to make him move on." Catherine's eyes filled with tears. "Are you sure?" "No," Emma's voice cracked. "But I love him. And sometimes love means letting go." That afternoon, Emma packed a small bag. She didn't take much. Clothes. Her mother's photograph. The jewelry box with the broken clasp. "Where will you go?" Lucas asked, tears streaming down his face. "Somewhere far away. Maybe the coast. I'll start over. New name, new life." Emma hugged her brother tight. "You'll be okay. The inheritance, put it in a trust for your education. Build something good with it. I don't want the money. I want my sister. You'll always have me." Emma pulled back, memorizing his face. "But right now, I need to disappear. For Daniel, for all of us." As Emma walked out of the apartment, her phone buzzed one last time. Daniel's name on the screen. She turned the phone off without reading the message. Some loves were too beautiful to survive in the real world, and some sacrifices were worth making, even when they shattered your heart into pieces. Asterisk 6 months later. Emma stood on the deck of a small beach house in coastal Maine, watching the Atlantic Ocean crash against the rocks. She'd rented the house under a different name, found work at a local nursery, and built a quiet life far from the chaos she'd left behind. She didn't read the news anymore. Didn't search Daniel's name online. Didn't torture herself wondering if he'd moved on, found someone suitable, rebuilt what she'd helped destroy. But she thought about him every single day. The owner of the nursery, an elderly man named Frank, knocked on her door one evening as the sun set over the water. "You have a visitor," he said, his expression unreadable. Emma's heart stopped. "Who?" "Says his name is Lucas, your brother." Emma ran down the stairs and found Lucas standing by his car, looking older than his 19 years. They embraced, both crying, holding each other like they might disappear. "How did you find me?" Emma asked when she could finally speak. "It wasn't easy." "You covered your tracks well." Lucas pulled back, studying her face. "You look different, thinner, sadder." "I'm okay." "You're a terrible liar." Lucas pulled out his phone. "Emma, you need to see something." He showed her a news article. The headline read, "Daniel Stone steps down as CEO, launches nonprofit foundation." Emma's hands trembled as she read. Daniel had left Stone Technologies. He'd used his personal fortune to start a foundation providing technology education to underprivileged communities. The article called it a shocking career pivot, a billionaire walking away from empire to pursue meaning. "He's been looking for you," Lucas said quietly. "For 6 months. He hired investigators, reached out to everyone who might know where you went. Catherine tried to tell him what you said, but he didn't believe it. He said you loved him, and he wasn't giving up." Emma felt tears streaming down her face. "He shouldn't have left the company. That was his whole life." "No," Lucas corrected. "You were his whole life. The company was just what he thought he was supposed to want." "Emma, he's been teaching coding to kids in the neighborhoods where Mom raised us. He's building computer labs in schools that can't afford them. He's using his money and skills to honor Thomas and Elizabeth's love story by helping people like us." Emma couldn't breathe. "Where is he now?" Lucas smiled. "Turn around." Emma spun. And there, walking up the beach path, was Daniel. He looked different too. Less polished. More real. His hair was longer, his clothes simpler. But his eyes, when they met hers across the distance, held the same intensity she remembered. Emma's legs moved before her brain could catch up. She ran across the sand, not caring that tears blurred her vision, not caring that she looked wild and broken. Daniel caught her, his arms wrapping around her waist, lifting her off the ground. "I've got you," he whispered into her hair. "I've got you, and I'm never letting go." They sank to the sand together, holding each other while the ocean roared, and the sky turned colors neither of them could name. "You left the company," Emma said between sobs. "You gave up everything. I gave up nothing that mattered." Daniel pulled back to look at her face, his hands cradling her cheeks. "Emma, those 6 months without you were hell. I went through the motions. Attended meetings, made decisions, but I was hollow inside. Then one day I was visiting the neighborhood where your mother raised you. I saw kids who reminded me of what you'd told me about your childhood. Brilliant kids with no opportunities. And I realized that's where I wanted to be. Not in some glass tower making rich people richer, but down here, making a real difference. But Catherine, the board, everyone wanted you to stay. Catherine was the one who told me to go." Daniel smiled. "She said Thomas would have been proud. That the best way to honor your father's memory was to fight for the kind of world where love didn't have to die because of money and power." Emma touched his face, needing to make sure he was real. "Daniel, I disappeared to protect you. I thought if I left, Veronica would stop coming after you. She did stop. But not because you left." Daniel's expression darkened. "Veronica made a mistake. She went after one of my business partners with the same tactics she'd used on you. Falsified records, manipulated evidence, but she picked the wrong target. He had better lawyers and no mercy. She's facing criminal charges now for extortion and fraud." Emma felt a savage satisfaction, then immediately felt guilty for it. "I'm not happy she's suffering," Emma said. "But I'm glad she can't hurt anyone else." "Me too." Daniel stood up, pulling Emma with him. "But I didn't come here just to tell you Veronica's gone. I came because I need to ask you something." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Emma's heart stopped. "I know this is crazy," Daniel said, his voice shaking. "I know we've only really spent a few weeks together. I know you ran away because you thought you were protecting me. But Emma, these last 6 months proved something to me. I don't want a life that doesn't have you in it. I don't want success or wealth or power if it means being without the woman I love." He opened the box. Inside was a simple ring, a single diamond on a silver band. "This isn't about money or status or joining dynasties. This is me asking you, Emma Bennett, if you'll build a life with me. Not in some mansion or penthouse, but wherever you want. Here on this beach, in the city, on a farm in the middle of nowhere. I don't care where we are, as long as we're together." Emma looked at the ring, then at Daniel's face. She saw hope and fear and desperate love in his eyes. She thought about her mother, who had loved Thomas but never got to have a life with him. She thought about all the ways fear and other people's cruelty had stolen her parents' happiness, and she realized that running away hadn't honored their sacrifice. It had just repeated their tragedy. "Yes," Emma whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." Daniel slipped the ring onto her finger, and then they were kissing. Salt from the ocean mixing with the salt of their tears, the setting sun painting everything gold. Lucas whooped from where he'd been respectfully waiting, and Catherine's voice called out, "It's about time." Emma pulled back to see Catherine walking down the beach path, supported by Lucas. The elderly woman was beaming. "You knew where I was," Emma said, laughing through tears. "Of course I did." Catherine hugged her. "I've had investigators watching you since the day you left, making sure you were safe, waiting for the right moment to bring him to you." "You're all conspirators," Emma said, but she couldn't stop smiling. That night, the four of them sat on the beach around a fire Lucas had built. They talked about Thomas and Elizabeth, about the love story that had almost been destroyed, but had somehow impossibly led to this moment. "Your father would have loved you so much," Catherine told Emma. "What? And your mother would be so proud of the woman you've become. Someone brave enough to run and brave enough to come back." "I didn't come back," Emma pointed out. "You brought him to me," True, Daniel said, taking her hand. "But you said yes." That took its own kind of courage. 3 months later, Emma and Daniel were married in a small ceremony on the same beach. No fancy ballroom. No hundreds of guests. Just Lucas, Catherine, Dr. Chen, Frank from the nursery, and a handful of close friends. Emma wore a simple white dress she'd found at a thrift store. Daniel wore jeans and a button-down shirt. They exchanged vows they'd written themselves, promising not perfection, but presence. Not wealth, but wholeness. Not escape from hardship, but companionship through it. When the officiant pronounced them married, Emma thought she felt something in the air shift. Like her mother's spirit was finally at peace. Like Thomas was watching over them, smiling. They moved into a house halfway between the city and the coast. Daniel continued his foundation work, teaching and building and giving back. Emma opened a new flower shop. This time she also started a scholarship program for kids from low-income families who wanted to study horticulture. They used Thomas's inheritance to create something beautiful. Community gardens in neighborhoods that had never had green spaces. Job training programs. Grants for small businesses. It wasn't perfect. There were hard days when Emma still felt like she didn't belong in Daniel's world. Or when Daniel worried he wasn't doing enough to honor his uncle's legacy. They argued about money and purpose and how to balance their different backgrounds. But they did it together. On their first anniversary, Emma found Daniel in his office. Looking at the photograph of Thomas and Elizabeth that Catherine had given them, "Do you think they would have made it?" Emma asked, wrapping her arms around him from behind. "If your grandfather hadn't driven them apart, do you think their love would have survived?" Daniel turned in her arms and kissed her forehead. "I think any love that deep, that real, finds a way to survive. Maybe not in the way they planned. Maybe not in their lifetime. But look at us, Emma. We're their love stories, second chance. We're proof that what they felt wasn't wasted." Emma looked into her husband's eyes and saw her whole future there. Not perfect, not easy, but real and true and worth fighting for. "I love you," she said. "I love you too," Daniel replied. "Every day. For the rest of our lives." Outside their window, the garden Emma had planted was blooming. White roses and orchids, the same flowers she'd been carrying the day she walked into the wrong wedding and found her destiny in the years that followed. People would tell the story of Emma Bennett and Daniel Stone. Some versions painted it as a fairy tale, others as a scandal. But Emma knew the truth. It was neither fairy tale nor scandal. It was simply love. Messy, complicated, terrifying, beautiful love. The kind that survives betrayal and sacrifice. The kind that grows stronger in the broken places. The kind that proves again and again that sometimes the wrong door leads to exactly where you're meant to be. And as Emma stood in her garden with dirt under her, fingernails and her husband's laughter ringing through the house, she finally understood what her mother had been trying to protect all those years. Not Emma from hardship, but this moment, this possibility, This chance at a love story with a different ending, one where love didn't die in the darkness, one where it bloomed. Fierce and wild in the light. The end.